Now, lastly, I want to talk about a few things. Is frankincense. Frankincense, you know, is myrrh, frankincense, myrrh, and gold. Used in Ayurvedic medicine for centuries, for arthritis, for asthma, over 700 publications, most in the past in the 5 years. You know, this is the gift that the Magi brought, right? And we actually know where the three wise men were actually coming from. It's kind of historically misrepresented in this picture here. But this is interesting because Boswellia is another anti-inflammatory that has just been taking off in the marketplace in our practice that we've been using for now over 15 years, is that it lowers NF-kappa beta, 5-LOX, VEGF, HLE, a variety of other aspects. Studies shown in a variety of tissue cells and human studies. But the problem with Boswellia is this, that in Boswellia, there's 3 parts of Boswellia that you need to know: boswellic acids, AKBBA, and something called polysol. Now, most companies will say Boswellia. And what does that mean? Are they taking the leaves? Are they taking the branch? Are they taking the bark? Are they taking the root? So, and when it comes to plant medicines, every part of the plant is different. And that's why some things come from flowers, some things come from leaves, some things come from the roots, some things come from the bark, some things come from the resin. Boswellia actually comes from the resin of the tree. It's the gum resin. It's really sticky, okay? So it's very hard to manufacture correctly. And so what you want to do is, like, you want to see first that it's standardized to boswellic acids, and more does not mean better. So if someone says, okay, I have boswellic acids, I'm going to give it, 65%, or I even have something called AKBBA, which is the second most important ingredient, and I give you 90%. That does not necessarily relate to it being stronger. In fact, what we did is they were looking at for 6 years, the researchers looking at, because I was working with them and saying, like, hey, if we can get these fractions that are like the curcuminoids, the boswellic acids, the AKBBA, and even the polysol now, can we now just take that and then make it like 90%? Right? Because from a pharmaceutical standpoint, more is better. But when we turned it up, what happened was it didn't have any more efficacy in terms of lowering inflammation. It took 6 years, by the way, 6 years to find the right ratios, because in nature, it's not always going to be 90% or 100%, right? Nature is going to provide this unique pattern, and you have to follow the rules of nature. So we'd do these studies where, this would be up, this would be down, this would be up, this would be down, and we had to find the right level where the inflammatory markers all went down the strongest, and that's what we're able to do. But you have to be careful of things like essential oil companies right now. Essential oil revolution and multi-level marketing, $6 billion industry, for 2 companies that predominantly take this industry. But the essential oils is taking a different part of the plant. And so they'll take the information from a Boswellia study that's using the gum resin, and then they're saying that applies to their essential oils. Have other benefits, but they can't claim all this research, which they do. And in fact, we did an investigation where one of the largest suppliers of essential oils, their base cost, meaning all inclusive of Boswellia, essential oil with packaging and label, was only 50 cents, and they're selling it for $50 to $95. So what does that mean? It's not real Boswellia, or it's adulterated or synthetic. So the gold standard we're looking at is called Boswellia PS. It's brand new. It's also been patented. What happens is that it's the maximum of that ratio. So after all this research, we figured out, well, what is that kind of picturesque, perfect profile of the plant? And that was what was patented. But more importantly is it has a 20-minute onset of action. So when people take Bosmeric, the nice thing is that you can take the pill, and within 20 minutes, boom, it's fast acting. And that's one thing that I'm so proud of, because comparatively, when we use natural therapies, the common complaint is like, gosh, we'd have to tell patients, like, you'd have to take this for like several days or a week or 2 or 3 to get the benefits. And now it's like, if you have a migraine headache, boom, within 20 minutes it's down. You got back pain, any kind of action. And that's why people went to pharmaceuticals. I want a fast tab. I want my fast acting ibuprofen, my fast acting acetaminophen, right? So now we can provide them that same benefit without the side effects. Okay. Also, GRAS status. All the ingredients in the Bosmeric is what we consider GRAS status. GRAS status is something that when you have a product and you have an ingredient, again, remember, they're not drugs. So the federal government's going to say, well, how do we regulate this? Well, it's a dietary supplement. You have the data. Here's the safety. But how to prove that even further is that you apply to the federal government for what they call a generalized recognized as safe status. Now, that means that they provide all the research and data, and an independent agency and scientists will look at it, and they'll either verify it or not. Now, most products will not get GRAS status in the United States, right? Our ingredients have, and that's because they've gone through so much extensive clinical research and study on safety and efficacy. However, a lot of companies now that once, say, someone has GRAS status on C3 complex, the turmeric curcumin product, or the Boswellia, or the black pepper, the piperine, they will say indirectly like, oh, it has GRAS status. Their product is not GRAS status approved or certified or recognized. They're just, again, stealing or borrowing someone else's category, and that's still incorrect information. Now, lastly, ginger. We want to look at ginger. Ginger is an important spice. We all use it, right? It's been used in Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine for digestive rheumatic conditions, 4,000 publications. Not only a great anti-inflammatory, and you should be eating ginger all the time. Put it, ginger in your smoothie. Put ginger in your salsa. Eat ginger. Have ginger tea. Wonderful. It's also an anti-emetic. So a lot of people have cancer. Wonderful thing to have ginger tea, to chew on ginger. It's the first and only food approved by the FDA for nausea and vomiting due to chemotherapy. Right. Also for pregnancy, nausea and vomiting approved by FDA. So it's interesting to have to talk about a food, but it's approved. And then when you look at other aspects, it also, aside of the Boswellia and the curcumin, which are doing studies with synergistic effects, that now that with ginger, they're finding this chemopreventative and radioprotective property. So again, protecting the healthy cells from treatment. So when you go to my book, it'll list the specific drugs and the study, so you know which ones. Not all drugs should be taken with these things, but most drugs that you'll see that are given in certain categories can be. So that's something that we can always use as a reference. The problem with ginger supplements, again, that they're ginger powder, right? It's a heavily sprayed product. So if it's not organic, I wouldn't be eating it. People always go to the store and I just grab a big old ginger root. If it's not organic, heavily sprayed. Okay. It's also irradiated. So if it's not grown here naturally, organically, then again, you're losing some of the biological aspects. And there's a part of ginger called gingerols is what we're looking at, which is the curcuminoids of ginger. That is what we want to have in the product. If it's not standardized to gingerols, then I just say eat the ginger, because you're just, it's better to get a better source of fresh and live and more than some kind of, product that you don't even know where it's coming from. Now, more importantly, this is super important. If ginger is put into a capsule or any other proteolytic enzyme, ginger, bromelain, papain, nattokinase. I mean, you'll see all these kind of enzymatic ingredients, and they're put in a capsule with any other ingredient: ginger with turmeric, ginger with boswellia, ginger with CoQ10 or resveratrol or green tea. It degrades the other ingredients over time, their potency, because of the enzymatic reaction. So when people buy a product, it's manufactured, they put the ginger in the capsule, and then it goes to the shelf. By the time they get it, can be anywhere from 3 to 6 months. As it's sitting there, the potency of that ingredient is lowering down as the ginger sitting in the capsule. That's a little bit of a science. That's why some people say, well, why don't you just eat the ginger? But we've solved that problem. The gold standard is using the highest amount of gingerols. We actually have 20%. So you'll see products right now, some of them, doctors branded products, they might have 5% gingerols. Ours is 20%. Now, it is gastroprotective. So although there's a pungency, although it's kind of feels like a little bit of a spiciness to it, it actually protects your stomach. Okay, it has very, very strong. We're taking these plant medicines and then making them into medicine, right? So the idea is when we look at again, 3% of turmeric is curcumin. We're giving you pounds and pounds of. So to take that little extraction, it's concentrating these things, and that's why you have to make sure that potency and purity is very well watched and delivered. Pesticide-free, non-irradiated is what you're looking for. And then lastly is black pepper. Black pepper is one of the most important things. We use it in every single food almost around the planet, every single home, almost every single restaurant. It's on the table, right? There's 2,500 studies on black pepper. But the part of the black pepper that's been extracted is called piperine. Okay, and piperine has been shown to, again, be an anti-inflammatory. Again, I sound kind of like a broken record, but lowers all these aspects, improves actually some cognitive brain function, has some antioxidant effects, but more importantly, aside of being an anti-inflammatory, it increases nutrient absorption. That's why we have pepper on the table. It's not that we like it because it's spicy. It's that when we crush it on our food and we eat it, it helps absorb the nutrients of the food. So worldwide, we've been doing this for millennia, ever since we've been cooking. So it's funny, it's a nutrient absorber. And so when we look at the problems with, black pepper, again, most of them in supplements are not standardized to 95% piperine. So it's just black pepper ground up. Okay, it's not pesticide free, it's not irradiated. And there's a myth that's been put out by some companies that I want to clarify. when people were looking at curcumin, and curcumin absorbs better with black pepper, a lot of things actually. There's about 30 to 60 to 2,000% increase, and there's studies that we've cited and we sourced of like you can increase CoQ10, you can increase resveratrol, you can increase vitamin E, and curcumin by using black pepper. But some companies early on in the market did not want to buy the black pepper because they just want to have more profit costs, right? They want to have more margin. They say, I don't want to add an ingredient. So they made this kind of myth that, if you take the piperine, it's going to increase your bioavailability of your medications, and that could be toxic. That has not been shown in any clinical study on any level to have any effect. And in fact, the FDA is not coming and saying you can't have pepper on your food or taking it away from your tables. So there's a little bit of like, yes, if we took just a black pepper supplement, super high doses with tons of drugs, could there possibly be an issue of higher peak absorption? Yes, but no one would do that. Right. And even when we give it at the clinical doses every day that we do, even sometimes at higher doses with other ingredients or other things, we've never seen that clinically or in the published literature. The gold standard is called piperine. Again, it's standardized to 95%, the most studied form, increases the curcumin up to 2,000%, pesticide, non-irradiated, and GRAS status. Now, going back to this, so why this is so important, why I'm so proud of this, because over the last decade, we've helped tens of thousands of patients worldwide. I mean, I get everyday emails from people all around the world. I get people walking to our store and they say, this product has changed my life. But more importantly, it's because what I like about it is that when people get this immediate aspect of lowering inflammation and feeling better, then I'm like, but don't you want to explore why you have this inflammation? And what if you change your diet and make your diet an anti-inflammatory diet? This product's going to work even better. Right. And you might even take less of it, right? Like there's like you want to go, but I like this idea because, people need to understand, like, if plants can do this, what about my diet? What about the things I'm eating all the time? What about all the foods in my salad? What about all the foods in my tacos, right? Like what is all the ingredients, all plant foods can be anti-inflammatory, going back to my first part, one of the earlier slides. So this is what we want to look at. Now, lastly, synergy. What is synergy? So what Western medicine doesn't really understand is synergy is something that Western medicine doesn't really think about until recently, right? Synergy is adding things together. So when we look at Ayurvedic medicine, Chinese medicine, but Ayurvedic medicine is my specialty in area, particularly, is the understanding of herbal medicine is that when we use formulae means more than one ingredient. So we're looking at balancing these aspects. We're looking at balancing the parts of the plant, balancing the part of the absorption of the increasing the efficacy, but we're also lowering the risk of tolerability. When you take things for a long period of time, sometimes with drugs and even with supplements, it kind of burns out. Your body's like, I'm tolerant to it. It doesn't really respond very well anymore. Or there could be potential side effects of taking high doses or long periods of time. So when you look at formula, it's not only making it the synergy stronger, but it's also improving and making it a more balanced effect. And that's why even with drug companies now, they're looking at, in a combination of a trial, here's your drug and here's a natural agent to improve the efficacy. Now, what we've done, interesting enough, that took also many years to develop is it's an SR. It's a sustained release. So why I'm going through this is because it's so important, because everybody takes a product that's in a capsule. Remember, so if you have the ginger in there, or bromelain or proteolytic enzymes or papain or nattokinase, all those things that are other ingredients in there will be degrading in time. What we had to do is we had to bilayer and sustain release it, which is quite unique. And so what I mean by that is that when you look at the studies and data on curcumin, this is actually the gold standard in the research now. So again, 144 clinical studies on curcumin and the benefits. That's what it does in the blood. Now, importantly, when we do it with bioprine, it gets to 2,000%. It has this nice peak. So that's why you always see the curcumin C3 complex with bioprine. But what we ended up doing is now that we can sustain release it, SR, sustain release it. Boswellia, by the way, means Boswellia and turmeric, kind of a combination name. But it is giving you a 20-minute onset of action, meaning from the PS, the polysol fraction, Boswellia, immediate onset, 20 minutes, boom, I take it, it's peaking in the blood. Then the curcumin kicks in as normal, it does. And then we sustain release it. So it has an 8-hour sustained release. So, when people took, curcumin C3 complex, and you'll see it in the literature, you'll see it in videos all the time for cancer patients, right? And MD Anderson studies and whatnot. They were taking 2 to 3 grams 3 times a day. But we don't have to do that anymore. People were just doing this, peak up and drop, just like a food. But now we're trying to take the ancient wisdom and the modern science of technology of manufacturing, and now we can do it conveniently by giving you the more precise dose. So we're not overdosing, we're not overdoing it. We're giving you what you really need to be in this therapeutic range. So again, fast-acting, long-lasting, we're looking at all the different aspects of these 4 types of anti-inflammatories. And hopefully from understanding this lecture, you're understanding like potency, purity, safety, efficacy is important. Now, in my book, I talk about a lot of supplements. I'm not here to promote supplements. I'm trying to promote natural therapies that are safe and effective. There's a lot of products that people come to my office every day and say, hey, Dr. Pai, take a look at this. And I go, oh my God, this is terrible. Or the studies show that's the problem. Or in fact, you're missing this part of it. So that's just marketing because they're stealing from this company's research. So I just wanted to let you know that you have to be eating a plant-based diet. This is not a replacement of plant-based diet. But what can you do to lower inflammation now that you still have, if you're on a plant-based diet and you still have pathology, you still got to get menstrual cramps, you still got to get a headache, you still got to have knee pain, maybe from 50 years of inflammation. How can we take food as medicine, and how can we take those plant medicines and actually deliver it almost like a medication? This is what I hope that you would learn from this lecture today. Now, lastly, the recommendations is the following. Number 1 is eat a whole food plant-based diet. Number 2, increase your fruits and vegetables, right? Try to get to 9 servings of veggies and fruits. Test for the food, test for your microbiome, test for your nutritional deficiencies, heavy metals. Look at detoxification. Avoid taking NSAIDs at all possible. If you're someone's like, I don't want to take supplements every day. I don't want to take Boswellia for prevention, Dr. Pai. I just don't believe in taking supplements. I just want to eat a whole food plant-based diet. Fine, but then replace in your home the Boswellia with the naproxen and the ibuprofen, because people will still use it for a headache or a back pain. At least lower your risk of a black box warning, and while you're taking that, lowering inflammation of a variety of other aspects. Other things that I didn't get to talk about is Sanjevani glucan for your immune system. There's a section in there talking about beta glucans and the differences in comparative studies in vitro and vivo of 60 different products now that are on the market, and vitamin D, and doing some daily practice. When we look at like meditation and yoga, my book will cover that in a little bit more detail, but giving you the research, because people think like, oh, this is just an exercise. No, how to increase bone density, how to increase your lowering inflammation, how to increase the immune system just through breathing techniques, just through yoga, just through having part of community has been shown like we are social beings. So I want to let you know that it's not just a single product. It's not just the diet. You have to be doing all the epigenetic factors. This is what I offer to my patients in my book. This is what we offer, this individualized integrative medicine approach in my clinic. So I hope that this is something that was helpful for you. I do thank you for spending the time early this morning and listening to this. You can go find me at sanjevani.net. The product you can go look at is bosmeric.com, or look at our store, look at a variety of products, even products that are not ours. We will only use products that we have seen clinical research, clinical doses. So again, we always take the best of everything. We have patients come from all around the world. Even doctors, conservative doctors, will refer to us because they know that that's my specialty. We are screening out. What we carry is something that we can say that with confidence is safe and effective. And then obviously you can look at an Inflammation Nation. You can also buy it on Amazon. You can get it through our store at inflammationnation.com, and you can get a signed copy from me, or you can go to The Real Truth About Health and get it there. So I want to thank you, and I want to open up for questions.